So this video is for you, Ellen, and I hope that I can do some justice in answering your question. I think the biggest teacher around validation is that when we go outside of the self for someone to validate what we're experiencing or validate even our questions, we're discounting the self. We're discounting the person who is the questioner, is the seeker. I think the biggest thing here is that there's nothing you can do wrong. And when we really get that, when we really get that whatever the experience is that's arising is perfect, the seeking and the questioning stops. But that doesn't mean that when the seeking and the questioning arises that it's wrong. That's where suffering comes in. Suffering comes in when we get into the flow of just allowing what is, and then some experience enters our spectrum that makes us move back to this place of seeking or the place of creating stories. Stories will always arise. They will always be part of this human experience. It's what we do with the stories. So the story of experiencing religion, whatever the form of that religion is, and that by experiencing that religion, it's somehow dark or wrong or inappropriate or against a belief system. That's just more thoughts. That's just more thoughts that the experience has arisen in your flow. You've allowed the experience to enter into your flow. And then after that, you go into this, was it wrong? And then the next step is then validating, reaching out and saying, I've gone to this experience, was that wrong? Why would my validation mean more to you than your own? That's the bigger question here, I think, is that there's still something within the human experience that says what I've chosen to do here is somehow wrong. And in my belief in separation, I'm going to reach out to another person and ask them if my thinking is valid. And therefore discounting the whole process for yourself. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. Our thoughts around it can make it seem wrong, can create a whole story that it's wrong, can create a whole story that it's dark, it's bad, it's evil. Yet if it's here right now, if life is allowing it, why are you resisting it? I like to use stories around myself because I'm my best example, because I'm the one living it. I find it really, really interesting that some of my clients come and think that I'm done with stories. And then when I share a story, they seem almost taken aback, like, wow, you went into that story? And a couple of things happen. Number one, the illusion that they've created that I'm somehow in a different place than them is completely burst because there's this pedestal there that shouldn't be there. And number two, that I'm somehow separate or different than them. Sure, something happened that caused me to be in a place of awareness where the stories aren't as relevant or aren't as intriguing as they used to be, but I'm still very much experiencing my own stories. There's a few going on in my life right now that are super duper exciting. You know, they want to invite me in. They're sexy and they're romantic and they're intriguing and they're chaotic and they're dysfunctional. I know that wasn't all about my relationship. Oh, that's so funny. That was a little bit of several different experiences or stories that I'm going through right now. Kelly, the human being, has a choice. Do I want to go into the story? Is that my preference? Or do I want to step back from all of it as a witness and just say, it just is? It just is. The labels of good, bad, right, wrong, the labels of dark, evil, I've even started to move to a place of the labels of serving and unserving are really what caused the suffering. The flow of what is happening in life is perfect. Life is always working to your best outcome. Any resistance that we bring into that is our own. And if I start laughing hysterically, bear with me. The baby bunny is over here, and he is, let me see if I can show you him. He is just having a ball hopping around in his playpen right now. Let me see if I can take him over here. So there's Poof. And now, of course, he'll stop hopping because I'm showing you. Look at that. Look at that little Poofy. There you go. I'll take you out in a minute, Sophie. How's that for creative videography? We got to see the baby bunny. Now I forget where I was. Totally forget where I was. Anyway, that's perfect too. That's perfect too. That's what arose in this moment. There's no resistance to it being here. Will resistance stop? Does the suffering stop? That's a choice. It really is. It's a choice. And again, even me, even Kelly, who works with clients, who is no different than you, doesn't have this all figured out. I slip into suffering. I slip into chaos. I slip into regret, guilt, shame. The only difference is I pop out of it on the other side much faster now. The story doesn't continue into chapters and books and novels where a whole library needs to be created anymore. That's just not my experience anymore. And it doesn't have to be yours either. The need for validation around what you're experiencing says, I'm not accountable, or I can't give myself permission to love what is showing up right now. I need somebody else to say, this should be showing up. I need somebody else to say, this is okay. I need somebody else to say, you're right where you need to be. And even that's perfect. Even that's perfect. So what's the flip reverse of that? Going to the opposite extreme, which is, I've got this all figured out. I'm perfect. I never need anyone. No matter what the story is, no matter what story is being written or arisen in that moment is perfect. It's our judgment of what's arising. So if you have a day where you're in the flow and everything feels beautiful and perfect and you're grateful and you're just allowing whatever is to show up, and then something comes into the experience that says, this is not what I want, and then we go right into that, and then we look back on our day and reflect on it and say, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had responded this way. I wish I hadn't lost my temper. Whatever it is that we start to reflect on and then wish that it had been different, that's where the pain is. Instead of just laughing and saying, I cried, I got angry, I was jealous, I was resentful, I was pissed off, I lost my temper. Because even those emotions are perfect. I don't have this figured out, you know. I don't have this whole thing figured out. And I surround myself with beautiful, loving people who are on the same journey, and they all say the same thing. Throw away what I've said. Have your own experience. I mean, I love Lisa Karen's way of saying, chuck it all away. And Michael Owen, how friggin' funny is this? You know, all of the people that are doing similar work to what I'm doing are not working on you, they're working on me. And if that somehow unfolds for you and there's something within that that you go, I recognize that or I see that, great. But don't make it your new religion or your new motto or your new way of approaching life, because it's specific to you. There's nothing you can reach out and ask me that will get a different response than I love you. Ellen, I love you. I love you right where you are. I love your questions. I love your vulnerabilities. I love the bunnies hopping. I love your everything. I mean, I just can't say anymore how much I love you and how perfect this is, every bit of it. You know, before doing this video, I had a good 45-minute cry. That's perfect. It's perfect. There's no shame or blame or looking back at it and saying, I wish I hadn't done that. I spewed on Facebook for 35 minutes with Eric, who's in the Netherlands, about all of these stories that are going on. And that's perfect. This morning when you reached out to me about this exact thing, I said, I'm not awake yet. I'll make you a video when I'm up. And that's perfect. So I've rambled long enough, and it's 13 minutes in, so I know that I'm going to be cut off soon. But what I will end this with, Ellen, is this. Every experience coming to you is life unfolding for you, because of you. How can it be anything but perfect? How can it be anything but what you are wanting? I love you. I love you, my dear friend. Please write me with any questions you have. And thank you for allowing me to be silly and spontaneous in this video, which I will not watch, because if I do, I'll delete it. I love you.